This is Real News Media TV, coverage you can trust. Please like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Select all for daily news updates. Missing St. James Cabbie believed beheaded. A pall of gloom now hangs over Greenwood in St. James following the discovery of a headless body believed to be that of 74-year-old taxi operator Leslie Harding, who went missing from the neighboring Long Bay community 2 weeks ago. Reports from the Barrytown police are that about 4 p.m. on Friday, residents in Greenwood alerted the police to an odor coming from bushes along a dirt track which leads to the Greenwood Great House. The residents went to investigate and stumbled upon the headless body of a man which was in an advanced state of decomposition. The police said the body was shirtless, clad in a pair of blue jeans, pants, and a pair of gray and green slippers. A further search of the scene led to the discovery of the victim's head not far from the body, along with dentures, test glasses, and a blue and yellow striped shirt. The scene was processed and the body removed to the morgue for post-mortem. Investigators told the news that they have reason to believe that the body was that of the taxi operator who had been reported missing at the Barrytown police station. One man who gave his name as Martin told the news that he was a cousin of the missing taxi driver and that he went missing on January 31, but a report was not filed with the police until a day later. Everybody did a look for him at first, but you know how things go with the murders them in St. James. So after so much days passed, everybody just give up hope and see you now, them come find him dead, said the relative who believes the body to be Harding's. Him a one man who run taxi and never trouble anybody. And based on how me hear, it's like them rob him, then them kill him and take away him car. He continued, him is a man who everybody love, him kind to him family and is always willing to give you a drive, even when you no have no fear. Him never deserve for death so. Them just take him and go kill him in the bush like a dog. The St. James police are yet to establish a motive for the murder. We are still carrying out a series of investigations and hope to gather some leads soon, one senior cop stated. Since the start of the year, 34 persons have been murdered in the parish of St. James. Cronies of slain wanted man given until Valentines Day to surrender to police. The Westmoreland police are now hunting for 2 men they say shot at them yesterday morning during an operation in which the parish's most wanted man was killed. Head of operations for the Westmoreland Police, Adrian Hamilton, say the men Devani Santa Bennett and Moses Ramsey managed to elude the police after opening fire on a 3-member team from the proactive unit which was conducting covert operations in Aldeer, Bluefield, Westmoreland. A 3rd man, Andre Hines, who was listed as Westmoreland's most wanted, was shot dead. An illegal AK-47 rifle and several rounds of ammunition were seized. Hamilton says Bennett and Ramsey have until noon on Valentine's Day, Monday, February 14, to surrender. In the meantime, he is warning residents not to harbor them. The police say the men had fled their Savannah Lamar communities when the zone of special operation was launched there last month. According to Hamilton, the Westmoreland police are energized to continue their hunt for guns, gangsters, and criminals terrorizing residents. Developers and residents lock horns over court order to knock down $100 million complex. In just over a month, arguments for why an apartment complex worth more than $100 million in the Golden Triangle neighborhood of St. Andrew should not be demolished will take center stage in the Court of Appeal. The March 22 showdown will pit 6 residents who are insisting that the construction of the townhouses and apartments at 18 Upper Mount Rose Road violates a restrictive covenant against developer Martin Lynn and his 2 children, Melissa and Martin. Restrictive covenants are legally binding stipulations on property titles to protect property values and maintain neighborhood aesthetics. In this case, the Lynns are arguing that the single-family dwelling character of the area has changed to enable them to build 2 townhouses and 4 apartments. In January 2020, Supreme Court Judge Judith Pusey ordered the immediate destruction of the housing units after determining that the Lynns had violated a covenant and had breached the building approvals issued by the Kingston and the St. Andrew Municipal Corporation. Pusey also ruled to the satisfaction of the residents that their neighborhood was a single-family residential area and that the Lynns failed to convince the court that the character of the area had changed to facilitate the multifamily development. The judge exonerated the developer for continuing with the construction despite the three things: the application to the court in 2017 to modify the restrictions, objections filed by the residents in July 2018, and the subsequent court injunction to stop the works until the matters were decided. On March 11, 2020, the Court of Appeal granted an order for the demolition action to be paused until the case brought by Lynn against the Pusey's decision was determined. Now the parties are in the final stages of preparation. The Lynns are being represented by Hilton Powell, the firm of former Solicitor General and Queen's Counsel Michael Hilton, and his partner and the senior lawyer Kevin Powell. Don Cox, led by Emil Lieber, is representing the residents Sarah Here, her husband Marvin Gordon, Henderson Donner, Marcus Handel, Yona Witter, and Brenda Francis. The case is being keenly watched as the authorities come under pressure to enforce the laws against the rogue developers, with residents getting increasingly litigious, all of which could threaten hundreds of millions of dollars in investments. The Lynns are appealing the decision to refuse their application for modification of the restrictive covenant that the residents are entitled to the benefits from maintaining single-family residences and the demolition order. They claim that Pusey's findings of fact were contrary to the evidence, that she erred in law when she stated but failed to apply the proper test for establishing a development scheme, and that she incorrectly exercised her judgment in ordering the demolition. According to the Lynns, in ordering the demolition, the judge placed the burden on them to show that there was a reason to refuse that form of remedy sought by residents. They said the residents should have been put in a position to show why such an order should be granted. Pusey failed to give sufficient regard to the long-standing use of 18 Upper Mount Rose Road prior to the purchase of the property in April 2017, the other multifamily or commercial usages in the vicinity, among other factors, the Lynns have argued. They also claim that Pusey wrongly placed weight on the developer, allegedly carrying out construction after an injunction was imposed, and that the father, an architect, was a witness in a previous case involving modification of restrictive covenants and was aware of the risk of going ahead without getting the changes. The KSAMC approved the building permit, but on the condition that the restrictive covenant be addressed. However, the authorities do not enforce that aspect, which requires developers affected to seek permission from the court to change restrictions to accommodate their plans. However, the residents are insisting that the Court of Appeal should not disturb Pusey's ruling, especially decisions arrived at as a result of her discretionary authority. According to the Lynns, there was no evidence that the previous owner laid out the property in lots to be covered by the restrictive covenants, and further, that the geographical area of the development scheme could not be ascertained with reasonable certainty. The residents, however, say the judge was correct to find that the criteria of a defined area to which the restrictive covenants were proved, and that the original title and the ones that followed identified the property as part of Vale Royal subdivision. Meanwhile, they say it is erroneous for the Lynns to argue that the burden should have been on them to show why demolition should be ordered. According to the residents, they were entitled to the protection of their property rights, especially after the judge upheld the validity of the restrictive covenants and their applicability to the Lynns' property. The respondents, having established that their property rights continued to be infringed, were prima facie entitled to the grant of the injunction sought, noted one of the submissions to the Court of Appeal. It added the legal burden was on the Lynns to dissuade the court and show that the residents should be left instead with a remedy in damages. And the residents say the claim by the Lynns that the judge was heavily influenced by continued construction even after the injunction was granted should be dismissed as it is without merit. To contend that in the exercise of her discretion, The learned judge granted the injunctive relief largely or heavily because of construction after the interim injunction is not only incorrect, but disregards the preponderance of evidence which the learned judge appropriately weighed of the appellant's conduct on the particular facts of wanton, extreme, and blatant case the residents noted. The judge had argued that not only did the developer continue with the construction after the court injunction, but had allowed the property to become occupied. They plowed on, completed their development so as to the use of jargon to steal a march on the objectors, and they now want the court to rubber stamp their effort because of the amount of funds expended, Justice Pusey said. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Select all for daily news updates.